Hey everybody, let's take a look at case number 2. There's several things that are really interesting and important that we can do with Excel that are in that case. And a few people have been asking some questions, so let's go through it in a little detail. I'm not going to do every single step by step, but I am going to begin here on the annual plan worksheet, and you see I've got some of the calculations done already there. I have my operating income down here in cell D17. Now I'm going to begin by going to the formula tab, and I'm going to define a name here, and I'm going to call that the operating income. And it doesn't even matter if I spell it right, as long as I can use it later. Let's just keep going. Now, that's going to allow me to use that formula, or that cell reference, that calculation. I'm going to be able to use it later without having to go back onto that worksheet and remember that cell reference. Now, here I am on the investments worksheet. I'm going to do a little bit of work. Like, I'm going to begin by defining current balance. And you see this time when I go in, Excel is going to take a look at the structure of the spreadsheet, and it's going to figure out what it thinks I want to name this cell range, and it's correct. I want to apply the name current balance to the investment sheet in B2 through B8, which is exactly what I highlighted. So I can OK that, and I can continue to do the same thing, define target growth rate, and define annual investments, and I'm going to leave the 10-year future value as it is. I'm going to go ahead and just add a couple of other things to this spreadsheet just because it's called for. Like, I'm going to have the sum of B through B8. I'm going to have Excel count for me. I'm going to do an equals count B3 through B8, and what Excel is going to do is go and inspect those cells, expect that range, and if there's a value that is in a cell in that range, it's going to count it. So I should have 3 show up in B10 when I strike enter, and sure enough, that's what I get. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to add as well the investment period. I'm going to put a label down there in A10, and I'm going to add the number 10 here because I'm going to make those investments for 10 years. And I'm going to define that name as well. And you see, even though I have misspelled investment and it's not really been highlighted, Excel, again, is going to take a look at the surrounding cells and figure out what it thinks I want to name that cell. And sure enough, I want on the investment sheet, I want cell B12 to be named investment period. So I'm going to OK that. All right, I'm cooking right along now, and I'm ready to figure out my annual investments. Now, what I want to have in this range is I want Excel to go in and take my operating income, and you'll notice that once you begin typing in formulas, Excel is going to show you the named ranges for if you use the first few characters of your name. So I can take my operating income, and I'm going to divide that by my investment period. And again, you can tell obviously that these names work based on your input, so even if you mistype them, you're okay. Like I said, let's just keep going. What this should do, this should return into cell D3. My guess is it's probably going to be a little over $3,000 because my operating income is about $10,000, and I'm dividing that up equally among 3 different investment funds. And I've got a mistake there. Let's see, what did I do? Investment period. Oh, look, I made a mistake there. It's not the investment period. It is the number of investments. Now, that is not something that I named, so I'm going to have to just type in here cell B9. Now notice I'm putting in there cell B10. Notice that I'm putting in there absolute cell references. What's going to happen now is Excel will figure out what the operating income is. It's going to go look at that, find that on the annual plan worksheet, and it's going to divide that by whatever value is here in B10. Again, if I had been paying attention with my naming, I could have named cell B10, and that would have saved me a little bit of time, but it's going to work. Because I used the absolute cell reference, I can now copy that down, and that's about, we figured, the $10,239 that is our operating income is divided among 3 different investments because we're putting it an equal amount in each one of these funds. Okay, now we're at the point we're ready to figure out what the future value of this is. If we have $10,000 in our Treasury bond fund and we put this much money in for that many years and that interest rate, we should have a whole pile of money when we get done. Let's see how big that pile is going to be. And I'm going to, again, use the formulas tab. I'm going to insert a function, and the function that I'm going to put in is the FV, the future value function, which I can insert. And now in the open, I can insert that function and get my FV function up here in the formula bar. And now I can begin by typing in my interest rate. That's going to be the target growth rate. My N per, that is the number of times I'm going to make this investment. My investment period, that's the 10 years in which I'm going to make this investment. My payment, that's the amount of money that I'm going to be adding into each one of these funds every year, which is my annual investment. And the present value of this is going to be the current balance. And the final term here, the type, again, we can put in a 0 or 1 in there. The reality is it's not going to make a huge difference for our purposes here and for what we're doing. Not going to make a big difference. You'll see that when I enter that, I'm going to be getting a future value of, now this appears like it's going to be $57,000 in the arrears, which is not correct. I need to put that negative in front of that whole FV function so that we find out that this is actually $57,000 to the good that our investment will be worth after 10 years. And I can autofill that, and you'll see that after 10 years of making this investment, I should have about $250,000 or so. Won't that be great? Okay, I hope this helps to get you through some of these steps, and I hope you see some of the interesting and useful features in Excel, and look forward to seeing you online even more. Thanks.